A big hit in this pandemic, and a new Bloomberg column is warning it could take a long time for those big cities to recover. The headline reads this: New York and San Francisco can't assume they'll bounce back. America's big cities were beginning to struggle even before the pandemic led some residents to flee. Bill McKern joins us now, the Wall Street Journal Main Street columnist, as a former chief speechwriter for President George W. Bush and a Fox News contributor. This is just a fascinating discussion and debate that is happening right now. Bill, you're writing about it in the Wall Street Journal this morning. Who needs billionaires, right, you ask? AOC demands even more onerous taxes, and New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says not so fast. He's trying to get those billionaires to come back to the city, and she's trying to tax them more.
Right. It's an insane dynamic in New York. You know, New York has 118 billionaires. And the idea of the left, of Mayor de Blasio and AOC, who of course is in Congress, is to squeeze them even further for the money that New York needs. It's going to have a shortfall because of COVID. But there's no realization, as the governor's trying to show them, there's no realization that these people can move anywhere they want. And if you make it too high, the taxes, they'll just go to some place that treats them better. And you'll be worse off. You'll have less revenue. And that's particularly true. I think COVID has exposed the weakness of a state like New York or California that relies heavily on a few people at the top to pay the bulk of the taxes. Again, that was Governor Cuomo's point. And if the more you rely on them, the more hurt you are if even a handful leave, because you'll take a big hit to your revenues.
Governor Cuomo has basically resorted to begging on this issue to get people back to the city. Listen to Governor Cuomo here. I'll play it for our audience.
I literally talk to people all day long who are now in their Hamptons house, who also lived here, or in their Hudson Valley house, or in their Connecticut weekend house. And I say, you got to come back. When are you coming back? We'll go to dinner. I'll buy you a drink. Come over, I'll cook. They're not coming back right now. And you know what else they're thinking? If I stay there, they pay a lower income tax because they don't pay the New York City surcharge.
Because they're not getting the lifestyle that they were and in some cases still are paying for, Bill, right? You have to have the incentive to get those people back. Right. You write this in your piece. Billionaire former Mayor Michael Bloomberg once said New York City is a luxury, meaning people were willing to pay more for the high value it provides. The question is whether the wealthy will still be willing to pay that premium and underwrite the spending for a city where shootings and murders are on the upswing, not to mention rising homelessness and other afflictions. And if the governor hopes to persuade billionaires now thinking of leaving to stay put, he'll have to offer them more than a home-cooked dinner, Bill.
Right, and it doesn't look like that's coming, given the agitation by Mayor de Blasio. You know, Albany's answer is they're considering two bills, one a tax on billionaires and another tax on ultra-millionaires. They're just increasingly making the state more hostile to wealth. And I'd say Governor Cuomo is absolutely right on his point about this. However, he's not quite the supply sider that it sounds like. He wants the federal government to raise taxes and then send the money back to the states. Not only would that spare him the political problems with raising taxes, he'd get the revenue without making New York State less attractive. So it's a mess all around, and as we've been saying, it's going to be harder for these cities, especially now that tens of thousands of people are learning you can keep your job and you don't have to live. You don't even have to live in the New York area. I'm in New Jersey, but I could be in Texas.
You know, we're showing beautiful images of Manhattan. It's not the image that you see portrayed in the New York Post these days, with moms fearing walking up and down the sidewalks with baby carriages. Right. They fear the lawlessness that is happening in the streets of this city right now, Bill. Right. You write about, in your piece, Andrew Cuomo taking issue. This is not the first time that he's taking issue with the soak the rich crowd, right, you call them, like the AOCs, who's making this point. Listen.
Governor Cuomo, we need you to pass a billionaires tax in order to make sure that we're providing for our working families. It's time to stop protecting billionaires, and it's time to start working for working families.
So is she just not getting it, or is she just not seeing the images of a crime-ridden New York City?
Look, we got a taste of how AOC regards these things when she killed an Amazon deal that would have brought like 25,000 good jobs to her district, relying on her judgment on this. In fact, the criticism from AOC and Mayor de Blasio ought to confirm the wisdom of what Governor Cuomo is trying to say.
It's tough to watch, and you get why he's begging them to come back, the governor, but he's got to talk to the mayor about that one, and the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's as well. All right, Bill McGurn from the Wall Street Journal. Thank you, Bill.